welcome back to the Entertainment Vortex. We were at Brennan Theaters today watching Ready Player One. Now, as someone that's really into pop culture, I mean, I literally have a show on the channel called Pop Culture. This was a movie that was so anticipated for me. I could not be more excited to see this movie based off of what I saw in the trailers. But at the same time, I didn't really know what to expect. I hadn't read the book. I didn't really know much about the story beyond the little bit they give you in the trailer. And even though I had seen all the pops they released for this, and we had went over them in one of our previous episodes, I didn't really know who the characters were and what to think. Now that I've seen the movie, this is exactly what I wanted. If you are someone that is entrenched in pop culture, if you're someone that plays video games, reads comic books, remembers fondly the cartoon shows of the 80s and 90s, if these are things that follow you in life and have built who you are, this movie is built for you. Being one of those people that is engulfed in this culture all the time, a nerd, as you would say, this is just a love letter to me and everybody like me. Not only do you have little appearances of things that you love, but you get movie references and TV show references. You get video game references left and right. This is going to be something I'm going to have to buy on 4K Blu-ray just so I can pause it in some of the scenes and look at the crazy amount of stuff that's happening on screen, because you just can't look at everything at the same time. Everywhere I looked in one of the major scenes, there was something new to see. And that's kind of the definition of this movie in my opinion. It's something new to see everywhere you look.
So I've had the novel Ready Player One sitting on my bedside table for the last like 6 or 7 months. Basically, I'll reach over for it, start to kind of thumb through and get ready to start reading it, and then I close it back up and put it back down. It was one of those tough things where I like to be informed with a lot of movies, but with this one, I wanted to really go in as blind as possible. I saw the very first trailer. I thought that trailer was a little too long and they gave away too many things, but it didn't end up overall being a big issue. They didn't give away any huge plot points. It was things that happened in the very early parts of the film, and that wasn't a big concern for me. So it wasn't like they gave away a bunch of stuff. I mean, they do show a lot of pop culture references. There are so many more. This just has reference after reference, whether it's either through the dialogue or it's through the actual things that you see on screen as far as the visual effects are concerned. They do a fantastic job of building this world and making it feel interesting and like it is something that you would really want to dive in and actually exist in. You know, leave that regular mundane life behind and go to this surreal land of just complete and total just imagination and extreme just, you know, like I said, nostalgic love. It has a really great world. And it's something, like I said, if it existed here, it would be something like it is there. It would become kind of a problem. It would be what most people want to do rather than live their daily lives. It's that kind of an escape.
If you're someone that hears me talking about video games, comic books, 80s, 90s movies, etc., and you're just kind of like, I don't really get it, this movie's not for you at all. It's got a pretty basic story, and they really rely on your knowledge of the tropes of video games for you to get the story. That is super important to know. So when you're suggesting this to people or talking about this with people, consider their background. If there's someone that isn't really into pop culture, they're just not going to get it. It's probably going to be boring, especially the second half, when we're geeking out on everything we're seeing and they're just going, God, this is taking forever. I think that you have to be a fan of this type of nostalgia to really enjoy this movie.
The visual effects are absolutely stunning. Something like I've never seen before. The balance between this like surreal place that exists only in technology and just this downtrodden, dystopic type of environment that they live in on their daily lives, and just the way that they use these as storytelling devices are absolutely outstanding. It takes what is a pretty run-of-the-mill story and it makes it something that's memorable and something that will stick with you for a while. Because as far as like the message and the story are concerned, they do fall into some tropes and things are a little expected and you don't necessarily say, oh, I totally didn't see that coming. But the way that they allow the creativity of the people that are in this world to kind of make up some of that ground, it gives it a lot of originality, and those are things that are well needed in a movie that's like this, because it could very well just become just chaos on the screen and just, you know, fan service for the purpose of being fan service.
We're going to be doing a spoiler review where we talk about all our favorite nostalgia moments as well as some storyline elements. I suggest watching that if you've seen the movie. But this is, of course, spoiler-free. Now, when it comes to the characters in the movie, I really dug the characters. Obviously, this movie is in a virtual world and in the real world, so you get kind of a taste of both aspects of a lot of the characters, and I feel that they did it really well. The characters are believable gamers, but yet they're not quote-unquote cliche gamers. These feel like real people. Even the side characters you don't get a ton of information about, I still felt like I knew enough about them to really enjoy them and want to see more of them. And I feel it gives you enough of the game itself, the Oasis, I guess it would be a game, but this virtual world, to understand how it works, and as a gamer, understand kind of the ins and outs about it. Although we will talk about some of the details in the spoiler review, because there are some aspects of it that I thought were very odd, considering the message of the story, but we'll go more into that later.
I felt like this had a good direction. There are some things that are in a lot of Spielberg movies, and some of those things are reoccurring. You know, there are a few little nods in some of the characters to things like E.T., and it just has like the group dynamics are the things that they seem like they stick out the most in a lot of his films. He does it flawlessly. It's probably his biggest calling card as a director, the way that he creates a group of cohesive people who all do different things and make them something exciting to watch and make their dialogue something that's memorable and something that sticks with you. Because having a movie that's quotable means it's going to be with you for a while, and those are definitely not bad things.
When it comes to the acting, I was extremely impressed by the actor that played Holloway, which is the guy that creates the Oasis. You see him in the trailer. Mark Rylance. Fantastic. Talk about depth of character. Talk about building a persona. I mean, I feel like it was a real person. I mean, obviously when you see movies, you have a lot of characters and they feel realistic, etc. But this character had nuances to it. This character had personality traits and mannerisms that were built into the core of this character, and it really impressed me. I feel that he stood out every time he was on screen. And in a movie full of digital characters and digital acting, every time he was on screen popped, and that's something big. The rest of the main characters, I feel, did a good job. Parzival and Artemis and all of these characters and their real-life equivalents I thought were very well chosen. I didn't once feel that someone was out of place or wasn't believable, but at the same time I felt like they could pull off what they were pulling off. And that's important, because if you have a story like this, where crazy stuff is happening left and right, and you have that nobody becomes the hero concept, you have to believe it's possible. And with the way they wrote all these characters, I did believe everything they did and everything they accomplished was possible.
The acting performances are essentially what you'd expect them to be. They're more than likely not going to get any kind of Oscar attention or anything like that, but they are definitely something that people will really enjoy. Like I said before, I haven't read the book, so it's not something where I have a lot to go on as far as the characters, so I don't know if they're a true to story adaptation, but they are definitely entertaining to watch, and they help to push the story along in ways that are sometimes very novel and sometimes, formulaic, but they mean something to some people. Nick states in his review, they all kind of seem like they're different from different walks of life when it comes to, being gamers or being into pop culture, and they all kind of have their own niches and their own things that they enjoy. And it doesn't feel played out. It's not something like, and my editor's going to hate me for this, The Big Bang Theory, where it feels like it's a caricature rather than a person that really exists. That's something that's important for this kind of movie. It's going to be more accessible to a larger scale audience, even when it comes to people who are more of the casual type gamer, or are, who've just been watching movies since they were a kid, like most people who aren't necessarily as into it as Nick and I are. Even they will be able to sit down and they'll be like, oh, I really like that reference. I really like what they said about this. That's something that can sometimes transcend cinema. And that's when you see things become, a huge thing, like with Star Wars or Star Trek or, any of the big franchises that are out there. So I'm going to give this movie a 9.5 out of 10. The only thing that really keeps it from hitting those perfect score levels for me is just that the story is a little bit formulaic. It does have a couple of cliches, but it's not something that's going to ruin my immersion. It's not going to stop me from having multiple viewings in the theater or being excited to talk about this movie. It's something that I really enjoyed. Like I said, if the story had been something that was completely new and had some nuance to it, I would have been saying this is 10 out of 10, this is going to be something they're going to talk about in award season, that sort of thing. I definitely think that it will get some talks as far as the visuals are concerned, because they are some of the best that I've seen in a long time.
So I'm going to give this movie a 10 out of 10. The reason I'm giving this a perfect score is because I feel this movie was a love letter to people like me. This is what I grew up with, this nostalgia and this concept and the video games and the world that surrounds me at all times. And being able to watch this, it almost feels like it was written in a language that's just for me. Watching this movie, the further the movie goes along, it feels like I died and went to nerd heaven. This is just a big nerdgasm. Everything about it, everything you see, everything that's happening, it's like these could be my friends in this movie. This is somewhere I would be, this is something I would do, these are people I would know, and it just felt very familiar. Now, obviously this happens in the future, so it's not our world, but it just felt familiar. And I have a feeling that anybody out there that is engulfed in pop culture and loves video games and comics and old movies and stuff like that, like I do, knows exactly what I'm talking about after seeing this movie. It just feels comfortable. Because of that, I can't help but say that Steven Spielberg nailed it. He walked into a culture like he does so many times, and he nailed the culture, even though he might not necessarily be part of that culture. I have to give him credit. So perfect score for me, without question. So I'm curious to know, what is your favorite nostalgic movie? Leave that down in the comment section below. I know we're going to get all kinds of people that are talking about movies that were mentioned in this one, because there's so many of the big ones were in this movie in some way or form. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to this channel. We put out a minimum of 4 videos a week, and we have some surprises coming up pretty soon as well. Also, don't forget we have t-shirts available. It's down in the description below there if you're interested in picking one of those up. We hope you'll follow us into the Vortex. We'll see you next time.